Good thing my head wasn't down there. Turbo in, tailpipe in, wastegate in, radiator, some of the plumbing. I'm still in need of a fan belt that fits. The fan doesn't fit. I have to figure out something for that. I have all of the brake. No, these aren't brake. These are all hydraulic. They're not even hydraulic. This is the dry sump system. And I can't really do much on it yet until I get this tank in. And I've been waiting desperately from England for a bracket to attach this to the firewall, along with a tonneau cover. Now, I don't need the tonneau cover for quite a while, but I sure could use that bracket. There's also the bushing for the steering column. So there's a few things that are holding me up. I could do a little bit of work on the wiring. I could plumb some of the oil lines. But there's no real definite direction anymore. The fiberglass is off at the body shop. I haven't heard anything from them. So there's little fussy things to do on it. Okay, I'm back from the parts store, and I think I've got the right fan belt this time. I actually, now that I'm going through all this calisthenics here, realized that the last time I put this on, I put it on with the pulley at the same time when the radiator was out, when the steering rack was out, and I should have remembered that, but I didn't. Don't do that. There's not a lot of adjustment, about 1/4 of an inch, basically just enough to pull it away from the side of the engine block. And then I've got 2 clips, 2 terminals to attach. Nice big fat terminal. And this one that's about to break off. I've been constantly tripping over this starter over the last few days. Oh, I think while it's up on the jack, might be a good time to put it in. This is the old distributor cap with the old optical breakerless ignition in it. So I'm going to strip all of this mechanism out. This arm comes out, and replace it. This arm goes in with this magnetic unit. And I guess I'm assuming that this fits over here. Insert the magnetic sleeve. And then we'll put the rotor back on and ignore the rust. That should do it. That's a good starting spot for it. At the last second, I did a double check, and I realized I was 180 degrees out of time. I guess I'll route the oil pressure line and the water temperature line. You don't want to kink this stuff because it's got ether in it. It's actually tubing. I've used something round to recoil this hose so that I can stretch it out to the right length. Then we'll take the line and run it up to this fitting, and of course it fits something like this, but it will be doing that back here where you can't see it. Well, once again, it appears that I've screwed up. I ordered a collapsible steering column, and it's collapsible right here where this notch is located. It also has this other portion at the top that slides up and down, but I can't even get it into the engine compartment now because everything's packed together. But I did a rough measurement and discovered that it wouldn't really make much difference because it happens to hit exactly where the wastegate pipe comes out, this piece here. So I wouldn't be able to use it anyway, short of major modification by cutting and moving this. And I'm thinking that I might have an option of chopping the end off and notching it like this pipe and sliding the collapsible portion from the new shaft over top the old one. But it's risky because it means I'm butchering my old steering column. Well, I found out that there is just enough room to reattach the existing fan, but I have to use these little spacers to bring it out and away from the radiator. This time the red is the ground, so it should go in this direction. And as long as I haven't broken any of the radiator core by running some lines, some bolts through there, I should be okay. There's a lot more wiring in here now than there was when I first manufactured this bracket, some of which will run around the other side. The biggest concern is this oil line, and there's only so much room at the front here where it will run into the scuttle box. So I guess I could mark roughly on the bracket where this thing is supposed to position itself, but I should do some measuring this direction to make sure that I've got the arms actually centered in the middle of the dash. I'm going to bring the windshield down and I'm going to fit that first, because that will determine where these holes actually get drilled. I suppose I could bring the the top down and take a look at it, see whether or not it's going to line up with all the rest of the frame, or if I'm short. Not that I can do too much about it now. Well, it has snaps, but I don't have snaps on the front. I have I have lift-a-dot fasteners on the front. These are very cool side curtains because they have a little bulge in them. Well, the angle looks reasonably good. I did a paper pattern. I measured it several times to ensure that I was in the right spot. Try not to go through and drill into my wiring harness. That doesn't look too bad. As long as the angle is good for the bottom, I should be okay. Now to get this thing fitted, I'm going to have to take the windscreen off and the scuttle box off because it has to go together as one big unit. See if I can get this all back into place, and with that awkward mount, find out where I'm going to drill the holes. Well, this is not the ideal way that this thing is supposed to assemble, but I'm hoping, and Molly is hoping as well, that it will work as this plate makes it way into position. I don't think this is going to work. There's got to be another way. I'm going to have to loosen that wiper motor off and try to attach it and the bracket roughly at the same time. What we've got here is the makings of a new oil system. The most important thing now is to make sure that I have all the fittings that I need. So the easiest way to do this is to lay the existing lines out, sort of like a circuit, place a new fitting next to the old fitting so that I know that I've got all of what I'm going to need in order to refurbish this system. I'm going to work slowly through the circuit, attaching a fitting to one end of the new hose, and then running it past to the other connection, chopping it off to the right length, and then adding the opposing connection. It has to come right up to the inside of the fittings collar. Trouble with adding one little layer of electrical tape is that now the wrench really doesn't fit very well. I guess it makes more sense to do it this way. Since this is the first hose connection that I've worked on, it's going to be the line up underneath the nose piece going to the oil cooler, so it's not actually going to be seen very often. So I guess I can screw this one up a little bit and learn from my mistakes. Now this one is almost done, including the gouges in the aluminum. So we'll cut this one to the right length and work our way back. So we'll do a rough tailoring of this. And then we bring it back to where the oil cooler mount's going to be, down about here, or even lower. We can mark where the hose needs to be cut. Now we'll see whether or not this will fit on reasonably easily this time. Well, there's number 2, done with the same sort of method. You just take the tape off, see how badly it's chewed up. And one mashed corner, 2 mashed corners. Not very good. Well, no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to prevent damaging these fittings as they go in. I've checked on the internet, and there's apparently a vice jaw adapter to allow you to cut this stuff in ice, but I found that cutting it on here with the cutoff disc works just as well. The trick to putting the fittings in, I guess, to make them as easy as possible, is to use oil. The thing is that I have tried taping them with electrical tape. I've tried taping them with heavy gaffers, duct tape. I've tried wrapping them with a cloth, and no matter what you put around them, they slip, and then they gouge the soft aluminum. Now, I checked on the internet, and they have what they call AN wrenches, which I guess are aluminum wrenches, but I really don't think that's going to make a heck of a lot of difference. And in fact, they're not that cheap either. They're pretty expensive. And if I was going to be doing hose fittings for 10 other restorations, then I might consider buying a set of the wrenches. But I think in all practical purposes, the only thing that I can do to prevent them from gouging is nothing. And of course, on cue, my crazy cat has arrived. So we have a line from here all the way around into the outlet for the heater. And it's a shame I'm not Superman, because then I could put these things in just by using my fingers and they wouldn't get chewed up. Everybody at home that has done these before and have done them correctly is cringing right now. So here's the cut off piece of hose, and here's the nice, clean, brand new virginal fitting before it goes together. And it's been through the mangle machine. Well, this one is actually not as bad as some of the other ones, but it still has some rub marks on it. The last of the overseas parts shipment has finally arrived. The tonneau cover apparently took a lot longer than we both expected. Something to do with the manufacturer's plant being declared unsafe. This will hopefully allow me to finish off the oil tank installation. We have, this is the rubber, I think they called it whelping, something like that. Fits between the outer fenders, well, the fenders and the body. We have finally one tonneau cover. It's supposed to be for a left-hand drive. That's what took them so long. They had lots of them that were right-hand drive. This, I'm thinking, is the oil pan bracket. Hopefully. We should have one pair of sill guards. That's handbrake lever. The one on the other frame was impossible to remove, so I hope they've included the pin for this. I guess I'll be getting a pin if I haven't got one. Well, there's a bag of bolts and nuts. These are, in here is the upper steering column bushing. I got the scuttle box in the other night. It was off and on no less than 5 times. At that point, I didn't feel much like recording the process. So suffice it to say that it is in. The bracket now underneath that holds the windshield wiper motor on looks more like a piece of Swiss cheese. It's got at least 4 different locations for mounting that motor. A very frustrating process. I then had a bolt of energy as a result of accomplishing that, and I went ahead and I put the air horn on. I installed some of the terminals for the battery. There's a hole for the speedometer cable that goes through, and it's a little high up actually, but it will work. I've added the accelerator cable, and I think I could possibly try to start this thing up, but I still have yet to mount the oil tank. The brackets have come in. If I had known that this was going to be the bracket to hold the oil tank in, I would have fabricated something myself. It's not even going to work properly because I want the tank to be a little lower down than right flush at the bottom of the frame. So I guess I've got one really nice expensive hunk of metal from England. And these things, I think, are the brackets for the top, but I don't know how they will work. So I've taken a photograph of them and I'm going to be emailing it over, and hopefully they'll send me some instructions. The odyssey to install the oil tank has taken a little bit of a twist. I can't fit this thing into the engine compartment because it bumps up against the carburetor, which right now is currently sitting on top of the valve cover. The solution was to cut a hole in the bottom of the plate, and that's where this blank comes from. But it kind of ruined the integrity of the bracket slightly. I then had to cut a access port for the bottom outlet, which left me with that kind of arrangement attached to the bracket, which caused it to wobble considerably. That's the piece that came out of there. So what I've ended up with is this, and there's a piece of rubber molding just inside the groove. This will attach to the foot box on the passenger side, and will clamp on to the tank further up around where this collar is located, and these little tabs will come up underneath, and I will end up attaching these large Jubilee clips to the bottom. Then the top of the tank will be another clip, these two tabs. One will mount on one side of the frame, the other will mount on the other side, and I'll run one of these clips around that, and that should secure the top of the tank. That hopefully will keep it from falling out of the car. So with all of the cutting that I've done and removing of material, I think I've knocked about 5, 10, maybe 15 pounds sterling off the original cost of this bracket. I almost screwed up. While I was wrestling to get this in, it actually was in place and I had to drill it out. I forgot to put these tabs on that will actually hold the tank with this circlip, this big Jubilee clip, in place. Let's see if this is going to fit or if this is sticking out too far. You know, I think, yeah, I put those brackets on upside down. The tank will eventually be sucked into these portions of the railing. So we're going to mark here at the midpoint of that contact, and here at the midpoint of that contact, and attach 2 of these brackets. The tank is in and the battery is in. The air horn is in, so we can do a little test here. And this means that the scuttle box is going to stay. So I have purchased the proper gaskets for it to finish off the bezels. And I guess it means I can take this vinyl protective coating off now and actually start to do the polishing on it. The only problem I ran into is that I noticed that the tank, now that it's in, there is actually a fender mount that fits up here. And I can't get the bolts in because the tank is in. So I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of magical maneuvering with a magnet and see if I can get that in. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take the tank out. Oh, almost had it. Almost had it. Spun it off. And we got it. Okay, we'll get a wrench on that. We'll tighten them down. Might have to put a little bit of foam on the end of this thing just to keep myself safe. Wouldn't look too good. Man, 50 years old, dies by impaling himself on British sports car. To keep things as symmetrical as possible, I might as well drop the muffler on this side and install that other fender bracket. The lamps are in reasonably good shape, but the bezels that they were mounted on needed to be repainted, so they're still a little tacky. The back tail lights also needed to be repainted, and the wires going to these bulb bases, they've been patched several times, and so I've got some new wire, roughly the right color,
The red's okay. The green is actually green with a purple trace, but I guess we will we'll just use the green. And so I'm going to have to push these out and snip off the lead and solder on a couple of new wires. Now this one is still crimped on the old wire. So in order to get that off, I just pinch the connector, separating the crimping portion, pull the wire away from the terminal, and then just rock it back and forth until the wire breaks off. We'll add the wire, crimp down on top of the bared stripped end, and add a little solder. Okay, the spring is in place. Thread the wires through, and then making sure that the tab slides down into this groove over here. That's the right way around. And there's a bulb here someplace. I know, I just saw it. If you plan on reusing the bulbs, and there's nothing wrong with reusing a bulb, a little bit of steel wool around the connector. Okay, now I'll just cut a bit of wire off the ends and we'll check it on the battery. Ah, there we go. Dim, bright. And there's a bit of a lip in this rubber grommet that will accept the metal edge of this plate. Ah. I guess I better check and see if I've popped the bulb. Bugger. I guess I'm gonna have to get another bulb.